Evan Lorne had spent 14 winters guiding visitors across the Brooks Range, but in all that time he had never seen the northern lights curtain the sky so boldly. Green and violet flames rippled across the heavens, bright enough to set frosted spruce needles glittering like cut glass. The 8 Alaskan huskies at the head of his sled threw curious glances upward, sensing the electricity that danced through snow and bone. It was a night made for stories, exactly the kind of night his solitary passenger, the world-famous novelist Callum Finch, had asked for when he booked the exclusive Aurora run. During the 50-mile haul north from Coldfoot, Finch had ridden silently, bundled in sealskin, notebook braced against knees, eyes rarely leaving the sky. Evan knew the type. Some clients chatted all day, others saved their words for the page. Finch was reputed to be eccentric, but courtesy had cost him nothing. He'd paid for a private tour, tipped the handlers lavishly, and demanded only the darkest sky conditions and a guarantee of solitude. Simple enough. Evan had planned to camp with him beneath the Aurora, on a frozen tributary of the Koyukuk, then haul back at dawn. Easiest paycheck of the season. At 9:30, after they'd set camp in the bowl of the valley, Finch had asked for 10 minutes alone amid the spruce so he could listen to the quiet. Evan showed him how to activate the locator beacon if he lost sight of camp, then busied himself feeding the dogs. They needed calories, chopped salmon, kibble, tallow, before the night cooled further. Evan spoke to each dog as he ladled out the food, from massive lead dog Jasper down to skittish rookie Twig. The chorus of barks and jangling chains filled the valley, then faded as the animals settled to eat. 10 minutes became 20, then 30. Evan tamped coffee grounds in the percolator and glanced toward the shadowed trees. The locator beacon remained dark. He called Finch's name. Only snow muffled back. The dogs raised their heads, ears swiveling. Something in their posture stirred unease in Evan's stomach. The pack could read the land, and they smelled a puzzle. Flashlight in hand, rifle slung across shoulder, standard precautions against wander-hungry wolves, Evan followed a line of boot prints down an iced-over draw. The prints veered toward a ridge, then stopped abruptly where powdery snow turned to scoured blue ice. Evan sighted the beam across the slope, but saw no further impressions. No sign of a scuffle, no hint of blood. Just an absence where a man should be. The hillside dropped 30 feet to a tangle of alder. If Finch had slipped, he might have tumbled there. But the alder thicket lay pristine, its branches laden in silence. Evan switched off the light. The aurora shimmered bright enough to cast faint green shadows. He knelt, pressing gloved fingers onto the final boot print. Its edges were sharply defined, no drift to blur them. Fresh. He lifted his eyes to where the print pointed, due north into darkness. There was no wind, no storm. Finch had vanished into air so calm that Evan heard the crackle of the lights overhead. Sabotage wasn't the word that leapt to mind at first. Disorientation, maybe. Or heart attack. Yet Evan's gut whispered of something planned. Stories were everywhere in this country. Trapped gas in the ice, a twig snapping miles away. Tonight the silence told a story out of joint. He hurried back to camp, triggered the sat phone beacon to signal an alert, then fed the coordinates to the rescue network. 90 minutes, the dispatcher said. A ranger with a snowmobile team would depart from a research station on the Hall Road. In the meantime, Evan scouted. By midnight, the dogs had grown uneasy. Moose? Wolf? No, it was people scent. They recognized tragedy. Jasper whined low, straining at his tether. Evan soothed him, then struck off again, circling wider. On a wind-scoured ridge he spotted something glinting in the moonlight. A pen. Mont Blanc, engraved with Callum Finch's initials. 50 yards beyond, caught in an ice-snagged branch, fluttered a ribbon of red nylon, the pull tab from the tour company's own anoraks. Finch's coat colour. And then Evan found the blood. Not a lot. 3 coins worth, frozen to a stone. Enough to prove Finch had been alive when whatever happened, happened. Evan radioed the update. The dispatcher's voice turned steel cold. Copy blood. Keep scene pristine. He waited. He watched. An hour later, the low thrum of engines crescendoed up the valley. 2 snowmobiles crested the ridge, headlights diffused through falling frost. Ranger Dana Makosi swung off the lead sled, her partner right behind. They conferred with Evan, plating the facts like a checklist, then fanned into the trees with searchlights. Before dawn, they had mapped nearly a mile radius. No body, no second set of tracks. Finch had been vacuumed out of existence. Ranger Makosi's gaze searched Evan's face. You're the last person to see him. I know. You mind if we examine your sled? He minded, but resisting would look worse. He knelt beside Jasper, burying a trembling hand in the dog's ruff, while Makosi and her partner opened cargo bags. They lifted bundles of seal pup's hides, dog kibble sacks, a thermos. Then, wrapped in oilcloth, they found Finch's manuscript box. Evan cursed. That wasn't on the sled when we left Coldfoot. The ranger sliced the cord. Inside lay 500 typed pages, the name Callum Finch in bold on the title sheet. An attached note, deliver to agent upon my demise. Makosi raised an eyebrow. Looks like motive to me. It's a plant, Evan insisted, realizing how flimsy protests could sound at 2 a.m. under a rural fire. His whole livelihood, dogs, permit, cabin, hung on the next hours. The ranger sealed the box in an evidence bag, then ordered Evan and his team back to base. You're not under arrest, she said, but you don't leave Coldfoot. In town, news travelled faster than mercury in a thermometer left on a stove. By afternoon, satellite trucks lined the gravel parking lot behind the roadhouse. Photographers snapped pictures of Evan's dogs, while reporters tossed questions like meat. Did the guide have money troubles, rage issues, a secret feud with Callum Finch? Evan's boss, Greer Stowell, pushed through the crowd. Corporate's flying up tomorrow. They'll handle PR. In the meantime, keep your head down, cowboy. Keeping one's head down is difficult when the village population triples overnight and every face wants a villain. That evening, Evan split logs behind his cabin and replayed the timeline. Something outside natural law had occurred. A disappearance without footprints required 2 things: ice-hard planning and help, either mechanical or human. Finch's solitude had been his only ask. Not even his agent knew his location. Evan had chosen a valley few tourists ever saw. How, then, had someone predicted the route? The obvious answer was at the kennel. Someone inside Snowhawk Tours. Greer? No. If corporate sabotage existed, Greer wouldn't risk the company he'd built. One of the junior handlers, then? They'd all envied Finch's private slot. Yet envy alone didn't conjure a Mont Blanc out of thin air. The manuscript. Evan pictured the oilcloth bundle. Finch had named his latest project Borealis, rumoured to expose scandals in the publishing world. Could someone have cherished that draft enough to stage an attack? He decided to visit the Roadhouse Bar, current headquarters for reporters and the search coordination team. Maybe chatter would drop a clue. Inside, heat pressed like wool. An NFL game flickered on mute. In a corner, 2 sat phone operators queried search members across the range. Evan ordered coffee at the bar, scanning. He recognized Finch's New York publicist, Imogen Selkirk, nursing a whiskey. She'd flown in that morning amid a convoy of Manhattan suits. Her stylish parka contrasted with the locals' patched gear. Evan approached. She tensed when she saw him. "You have nerve." "I need information," he said, voice low. Finch carried a locator beacon, dead man's switch, but it never sent. Someone disabled it. Imogen's eyes softened, surprise eroding anger. "You think he's alive?" "I think he was taken." Evan hesitated, then asked, "Did Callum have enemies?" She huffed a humorless laugh. "Only every editor he fired, and one ex-wife, but not the kidnapping type." Her fingers traced condensation on the glass. There was something odd before he flew here. A freelance fact-checker, a woman named Kenna Shue, kept calling him about his new book. She claimed she'd found errors that could make him liable for defamation. Imogen shrugged. Cal brushed it off, said he'd verify sources in Alaska. "Kenna Shue," Evan repeated. "Does she know you're here?" "Last I heard, she was in Fairbanks." Imogen's gaze flicked to the front door. Speak of the devil. A woman in a grey parka entered, brushing snow from sleek black hair. She ordered tea, scanning the room with quick eyes that halted on Imogen. They exchanged a brief, stiff nod. Imogen leaned close to Evan. "I'll distract her. You check her rental." Evan's instinct jolted. Was Imogen manipulating him to harass a rival? But truth hid in unexpected alleys. He had to try. Outside, he spotted the only Fairbanks plates in the lot, a Navy SUV coated in road salt. Driver door unlocked. Inside, the floor glittered with ice crystals, but something else glittered too. Brass shavings. Evan picked one up, a spent blank cartridge. Another item lay in the center console, an identical locator beacon to Snowhawk's model, wires clipped. Heart thundering, Evan replaced the objects precisely, then retreated into night. If this SUV belonged to Kenna Shue, what was she doing with blank rounds and a broken beacon? Attempted intimidation? A staged distress call? Inside the bar, Kenna now sat alone at a table, scribbling in a notebook. Imogen had vanished, perhaps into a side hall. Evan sensed a trap tightening. He stepped toward Kenna. "Miss Shue," he began. She looked up warily. "You're the guide they're trashing. And you're the fact-checker." He slid into the opposite chair. "Find anything worth kidnapping a writer over?" "I was about to ask you the same." She stretched, agitation in her pulse. "Callum was my friend. I warned him certain passages might ruin reputations." "Whose?" "Executives at Fort Crown Publishing. Their acquisition of a vanity press. Cozy deals trading favourable reviews for stock options. Callum said he'd unearthed internal emails proving it." Fort Crown owned Snowhawk Tours through a string of holding companies. Evan's skin pricked cold. The corporate suits descending tomorrow. They represented Fort Crown. Kenna sipped tea. If that manuscript disappears, so does proof. And if Callum disappears, nobody asks awkward questions. Evan told her about the pages stashed on his sled. Kenna's face drained of colour, then flared with determination. "Someone planted it to incriminate you and retrieve it later. We have to keep it safe. Ranger Makosi locked it in evidence. That won't stop Fort Crown. They'll leverage influence, claim proprietary rights." A door thudded. Imogen re-emerged, accompanied by Greer Stowell and 2 men in corporate parkas sporting the Fort Crown logo. Greer's eyes found Evan's. Not friendly tonight. Kenna whispered, "Time to leave." They exited through the kitchen into -20 air. Kenna's SUV lurked beyond floodlights. She popped the hatch, revealing climbing ropes and avalanche gear, standard for Dalton highway travelers, but also versatile for illicit schemes. Evan held up the brass shaving he'd pocketed. Why blanks? To scare wolves, she said, and maybe corporate goons. The answer felt rehearsed, yet Evan sensed sincerity beneath. He tossed the shaving into snow. I'll need your help clearing my name. And I'll need yours getting that manuscript out of evidence. He recalled Makosi's respect for chain of custody. Impossible, legally. Then we leverage the one power bigger than Fort Crown, sunlight. Get me a copy, and I'll broadcast it to every newsroom between here and Anchorage. Her eyes gleamed. But we only have hours before Fort Crown's team does inventory. Evan weighed options. Dog sled tours were his life. Yet if corporate muscle swallowed a missing man's last words, nothing good followed. He made a choice. Meet me at Snowhawk's kennel in 30 minutes, he said. Bring cold weather gear. She nodded, determination steel bright. At the kennel, the dogs howled greetings. Evan saddled Jasper and 6 others, travel light configuration. He loaded bedrolls, a camp stove, and Kenna's rope kit. She arrived wearing a balaclava and headlamp, hesitant at the sight of the team. Ever ridden a dog sled? No, but I learn fast. Evan gave rapid-fire lessons 1001. Lean into turns, never step off the brake until the snow hook is set, trust the dogs. He hitched her towed sled behind his. We need to reach the ranger station before Fort Crown does, 30 miles upriver. They launched into starlit night, paws drumming powder. Kenna clung to the handlebar, cheeks stung red. Jasper's black shape flew like an arrow. Evan shouted G and haw, weaving through black spruce corridors. 3 hours later, antenna towers emerged through frost haze. The ranger station squatted on a bluff above the iced Koyukuk, windows glowing. Evan swung the team wide, coasting downhill toward a fringe of willows. He set the snow hook. Kenna panted, exhilarated. Now what? Now we break in. She pushed goggles to her forehead. Felony, Mr. Lorne. So is kidnapping. They crept to the back door. Lockpicking fell to Kenna's nimble hands. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed. Evidence lockers lined a hall. Evan located 27. Callum Finch property. Padlock simple. He spun digits, intuition guiding 0309. Finch's birthday per Wikipedia. The shackle sprang. Manuscript in hand, Kenna photographed every page with her phone's scanning app. 10 minutes of frantic tapping. Evan watched windows, pulse pounding. A crunch outside. Snowmobiles approaching. Kenna hissed. Almost done. Headlights speared the parking lot. Voices, corporate suits plus Greer and, shockingly, Ranger Makosi. They entered through the front, greeting a night duty officer. Evan heard phrases. Court order, urgent retrieval. He pulled Kenna into a boiler closet. The manuscript box he left on a desk, undisturbed. Boots passed inches away. Makosi's voice. Evidence, the 7 intact. A key rattled. Fort Crown's property now? Evan felt a stab. The ranger had folded. Money? Pressure? Regardless, they would discover the pages missing soon. Kenna finished the final scan, hit send to an encrypted cloud. We're ghosts now. They slipped through a maintenance hatch onto the riverside, lowered by rope to the frozen slope. The dogs greeted them with quiet whines. Evan lashed the sled, whispering, "Hike!" They vanished downriver as engines revved above. By dawn, they reached a prospector shack Evan kept stocked on the Yukon tributary. He fed the dogs, then brewed coffee on a stove fueled by scavenged driftwood. Kenna refreshed her upload progress, complete. She typed a single command, distributing the file to 200 journalists, plus a failsafe server. Done, she exhaled. Fort Crown just lost its leverage. Evan allowed himself a slim smile, then froze as Jasper barked warning. Snowmobiles again, faint but closing. They tracked us, Kenna said. Evan scanned the horizon. 2 specks. He reached for the rifle resting by the door, considered. Kenna whistled sharply. Jasper dashed to her. She clipped a small camera to his collar. Go, she commanded, pointing southeast, the route to Coldfoot. The big lead dog bolted, team instinct flaring as the others sprang to follow. Evan scrambled aboard the sled, Kenna behind. The team swung into motion, accelerating over the crust. They carried minimal weight. The pursuers would slog through softer drifts. But they also rode machines that could hit 60. After 10 minutes, the whine of engines grew. Evan glanced back. 2 riders, Greer Stowell, and 1 Fort Crown exec. Greer's face contorted between anger and regret. Kenna shouted, "Left bend ahead, ravine drop." Evan leaned hoar and the dogs obeyed, carving a tight turn onto glare ice. Snowmobiles braked hard, fishtailing. Greer's machine clipped a rock, flipped, pitched him outward. He rolled, crumpled against a stump. The exec skidded to a halt, ditched the sled, sprinted toward Greer. Evan kept going, human decency yanked at reins. He cursed, hauled brakes. Kenna shouted, "He sabotaged you." "Doesn't deserve to die." Evan anchored the sled, grabbed medical kit, ran back. Greer groaned, blood at his temple. The exec, a wiry man named Lester, backed away, palms raised at Evan's rifle. "We only wanted the manuscript." Evan knelt, checked Greer's pulse. Stable but shocky. "Call for evac," he told Lester. The man fumbled a sat phone. Kenna caught up, breathing clouds. "We have footage," she said. Jasper's cam. Greer's eyes flickered open. "They made me," he muttered. "Threatened insolvency. If Snowhawk goes bankrupt, 40 people lose jobs. I thought a plant job, evidence, would divert heat. Didn't know they'd hurt Finch." Evan swallowed anger. "Where is Callum?" Greer shook his head weakly. Lester's voice piped. "We don't know. Harvest crew found blood, assumed fatal, recovered manuscript earlier to safeguard company assets." Kenna spat. "You left him to die." "Or survive," Evan said. Hope ignited. Finch could still be alive, injured, somewhere north of the original campsite. He turned to Kenna. "We rescue him, now." They coordinated with Ranger Dispatch, who, faced with leaked scandal and police logs showing corporate meddling, reinstated Makosi's authority free of Fort Crown. Search choppers scrambled at daylight. At noon, a pilot sighted a reflective emergency blanket near an icefall 20 miles from Evans Valley. A man waved frantically. Callum Finch, frost-nipped but alive, had crawled there after being clipped by a tranquilizer dart. He heard voices, saw shadowed figures rifle through his pack, then blacked out. He awoke alone, disoriented, and wandered days, guided by Aurora and luck. When the helicopter landed in Coldfoot, reporters swarmed. Finch, swaddled in hospital garb, raised a hand. "The story you're about to read," he said hoarsely, "costs blood. Publish it true." Kenna's leaked draft already dominated headlines. Fort Crown racket exposed. Federal investigators opened probes. Snowhawk Tours severed ownership ties. Employee stock reissued. Greer, concussion subsided, offered sincere apology on live TV, then resigned. Ranger Makosi faced inquiry, but was cleared. Her brief cooperation stemmed from forged paperwork Lester had waived. Evan received no formal charges. Finch penned a personal statement praising his guide's courage, noting that without Evan's dogs, he'd have died cold. A week later, Aurora shimmered again. Evan saddled Jasper for a jaunt along the river. Kenna approached, camera in hand. "Ready for your close-up?" she asked. "Documentary producers are curious." He chuckled. "I'm just a dog sled guide." She shook her head. "You're the man who followed paw prints through corrupt darkness and found the truth." Evan thought of the valley under green fire, the abrupt boot print. Some stories begin when certainty ends. He whistled to the dogs. "Then let's ride and write it together." Jasper barked, eager. The sled lunged forward, slicing across snow as the northern lights painted new chapters overhead, free of sabotage, ablaze with possibility.